This is Gamer Weekly, bringing you the latest of what the video game scene has to offer. On today's episode of Gamer Weekly, I have Stephen Kick and Jason Fader from Nightdive Studios, and we'll be talking about the System Shock Remake. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gamer Weekly. With me today, I have Stephen Kick and Jason Fader from Nightdive Studios. Thank you so much, guys, for coming onto the show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Yep. So you guys just had a Kickstarter where you got over $1 million to help create, or you are creating, the System Shock Remake. Now, is this a remake, or is it its own thing, or is it like remaking like what the first game was, only with like today's graphics?
Should I take that one, Steven?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Remake, I mean, these things are so hard to define, and every game handles it differently. But in our case, we're basically trying to stay as true as possible to the original while modernizing where it makes sense to. I mean, in all honesty, the original game, it hasn't aged as well as other games have. And we acknowledge that. And so we're looking to provide the best possible System Shock experience that will be very familiar to gamers of the original, but will still have modernizations that current gamers expect.
Because you guys also did the Enhanced Edition as well. So was that like when you guys were working on the Enhanced Edition, and I guess like at the end of it all, you were like, I really like this game and all, but I really want it to be like our own thing?
Well, one of the cool things about what Nightdive does is, aside from just bringing back these old titles, it gives us the opportunity and kind of the potential to look at some of these old games and pick and choose, what we really liked about them, and then kind of put them up for evaluation. Like if we want to do anything extra with them, if we want to remaster them, if we want to enhance them, if we want to, do anything that we see as necessary to ensure that today's audience is going to enjoy them. And so with System Shock Enhanced Edition, we took a look at the original game. We worked with some of the modders that have kept the series alive on various forums, and created a version that pretty much had the bare minimum applied to it in order to allow anyone to enjoy the game today. And while we were all playing it, using mouse look, which wasn't present in the original, we started to discover how great the original game was again. I mean, we already knew, but being able to play it with a fresh set of eyes, with some updated mechanics, really allowed us to, explore the possibility of, bringing this title back, but even further than the Enhanced Edition. And that was kind of the whole basis for the Kickstarter.
And so does it feel weird going through somebody else's game, and like do you feel like there's a lot of pressure with it?
There's a tremendous amount of pressure with the System Shock IP. It is well known among a lot of PC gamers. It's not as well known as let's say BioShock, which is the spiritual successor. Mostly because System Shock never had a console release in any of its iterations. And so there's a lot of opinions about how this game should be. And it's hard to lose track sometimes that, above and all, we have to make a great game that we're going to enjoy playing, but we should also look and see what, the fans of the various franchises that were either inspired by or we're a part of the same lineage, and try to make something that's going to appeal to everybody. And it's a very tough task. When you say so, Jason?
Yeah, but for me, it's kind of familiar territory. I mean, I was down this road before for working on a Fallout game, and I mean that fan base is super, super dedicated, and there's a lot of lore that you need to be upheld to. And I would say it's very similar in our case. I mean, there's a very loyal and dedicated fan base for this game, and It's we actually communicate with a lot of the hardcore fans from the Kickstarter. We run our own Discord server, and we have the fans in there, and we just chat with them almost on a daily basis. And being as close as possible to the fan community helps us make this as true as possible to the original vision and also what the fans expect.
It should also be noted that we've got, open communication with a lot of the original developers, which again gives us another perspective. It's an invaluable resource that we really appreciate as developers, and it's definitely going to help shape the game into something that I think everybody's going to love.
So, what are some of the things that you are planning to change with System Shock for like this iteration of it? Like, what are some of the more modern things, I guess, that you are going to do with this game?
Well, it's going to be on console. I think that's probably going to be the biggest change from the original. We're not ready to talk about specific features or other things that we have brewing, and I kind of have a policy about that just because I don't want to get us into a corner as other developers have done in the past, where they talk about these amazing features that are either on the drawing board or in the prototype stages, and then when the game comes out, those features aren't there, or they're not exactly as the developer described them, and everybody's let down. It's safer if we just talk about things when it's actually near that completion point and not I guess too early. But what we can say is that we're using a modern engine. We're looking at everything that the original game did, everything that it did awesomely, and bringing a lot of that stuff back in with a more modern vision behind it, so that it's just higher fidelity, a richer experience, and basically it's something that gamers will expect to see from a game that has inspired amazing games like BioShock and even the Fallout series, and it's gonna really. I think one of the best ways that I've heard it put is it's going to be the System Shock as you remember, not as it was.
The better one. It's gonna be the better one. So, because I got a feeling I know what game you're talking about, the overhype thing and not living up to. I think I've got a clear idea of like.
I don't like to point out and name names for things. I mean, games that have gone through that have already had enough of the reputation beat up in the press, and I mean that's already a really difficult thing. And as a developer, I can totally understand talking about these amazing features that you want to have in the game, but a reality in game development is everything that you want to get in the game often does not actually make it into the final product, and so you just end up setting up these incredibly high expectations and letting your fan base down. And it's important to us to please our audience and fans as much as possible. And if talking about a feature too early might be really, really cool and something that we want to talk about, but ultimately be dangerous and risky, we're just going to announce it at a later time when it's 100% set in stone. That's something that definitely will be in the game.
I was just saying because it's that game that one that we're all thinking that we're not saying. It's been brought up almost every single time. Like every show that I've had, someone has brought that game up, and I think it sucks that it has gotten to that point with that game. But like,
just to be clear, we are talking about Finding Dory, Puzzle Quest, right?
Right. Duh.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Okay, cool.
Yes. I mean, with the Puzzle Quest
game.
lineage, like you can't just throw
to live up to.
It's a lot, like the stats
I mean,
for
their
Dory
E3
are
trailers
terrible.
looked amazing, especially like when they went to like the alternate hell dimension. I mean, come on, that was it would sell itself.
Like, I mean, they had a classic right there in front of them, and they just did not do what was meant to be done with it, But I was saying though, like it's kind of like it the game the actual one there. I think it's weird how I feel like this has become like almost like an echo through like the industry. Like it's almost been like, okay, you really gotta pay attention almost, because if you go like too hype on this, like I feel like that was like the game that broke the hype barrier, I guess you could say, because everyone's like, all right, I'm starting to not trust a lot of games.
Yeah, we landed in some really interesting water where now more so than ever, like games that are in development are under the microscope. I mean, the scrutiny levels are sky high, and to name one other title that actually influenced a lot, I think, of what we did right on our Kickstarter project was Mighty Number 9. There are a lot of people that are burnt out on crowdfunding. How do we get around that? Well, let's actually pitch this game to what we would consider investors to some degree. We got to give them something that's going to give them confidence in our ability to actually do this. And so we did that, and we broke that barrier with some of the fatigue in crowdfunding. But now, with this Dory game, there's other things that we really have to be aware of and that we have to be careful about doing so that we don't kind of end up in the same position.
Because at that point, then if you go too crazy, you're just gonna like planes or cars or something, and you don't want that.
Yeah, and no, especially not in a Dory game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I didn't, honestly, in this interview of talking about System Shock, I honestly didn't think we'd be talking about Pixar. But you know what? Influences, they.
How could you not?
How could you not? Yeah. Right, absolutely. Because I think it's interesting for you guys, for your Kickstarter, you guys actually have a demo that people can play. I know that it's a really early, basic demo, but you at least like have something. And I feel like that's something different than a lot of the Kickstarter projects, because you kind of just have to give blind faith to some of these. Like, oh yeah, this looks like a really cool game. I guess I will do this. But yours is like, if you actually want to try it, we got a thing built for it. If you want to see what we're trying to do here, and here are some of the other things that we have actually done.
Yeah, I feel like, because of what we did, it's probably going to influence a lot of what other developers do now too, because honestly, like
sorry, other developers, for setting the bar high.
A scratchy drawing on a napkin isn't really going to cut it anymore for like an idea,
I better throw that away.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's also good to mention that, with the demo, we made it free for everybody. Like, you didn't even have to back the project to try it. And that was kind of the idea, right? Like, try before you buy. I mean, what a novel concept. And the response that we got from specifically the YouTube community was tremendous. I mean, there's hundreds of videos of people playing our demo. It's a short and sweet look at what we have planned and just about, all the major aspects of our game. And, we couldn't have paid for marketing that was that effective. And,
we could have, but it's not like the resources.
Well, we're trying to raise money here, not spend it. So
we could have gotten the money. We could have done that, but we spent it all on the in-app purchases on Finding Dory Puzzle Quest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we gave PewDiePie $800,000 to scream at our video, and we raised $1 million. So, we kind of come out on top.
Wait, hold on. Is that like legit?
No.
Oh.
We got to be careful. We're very sarcastic as a team, and
I was about to
for
say
interviews. Everything's in print. No, we didn't.
Okay, I didn't like. That was just more of like a. I don't know how that works exactly. I don't know if they actually like.
Also, I don't even think PewDiePie even covered us. If he did, we would have raised way more than $1 million anyway.
You know what? Yeah. Like I'm tempted here to check just to see, because I feel like this is a game
we
that
would have heard about it.
I think we would have seen a massive spike in our Kickstarter funding had that happened, but
and trolling.
Yeah, and trolling, of course. But overall, I think our campaign went extremely well.
Yeah, no, I would honestly say, yeah, it definitely it did better than a lot, and you can still even there is no. I looked. He didn't play it, but that doesn't mean he's not gonna play it. I would say though.
He might now.
Yeah. Now, I'm gonna send him this interview, and he's gonna be like, "What the hell is this?" and then delete it, and I'll be like, "Well, I tried."
But that Finding Dory Puzzle Quest sounds pretty good. I might cover that.
Yeah. So I was listening to this random guy's System Shock interview, and they were talking about Finding Dory. Is that a game? Is that a real game? Like, is Finding Dory Puzzle Quest actually real?
I honestly don't know. I just put through words together that were at the forefront of my mind for some reason.
I usually just say Hello Kitty's Island Adventure.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, yeah. But that sounds like
Yeah.
that could be a real thing. I try to find two things that I could juxtapose.
So what you're saying
I know.
is we're gonna make this game though, right? Now that it's not existent, like now we got to make it exist, right?
Well,
Somebody will probably buy it.
my old fallback was to just say we were making Sandwich Simulator, but that's a
That's
thing
probably a
now.
thing.
So,
No.
well, okay, it's part of the VR Vive package, Job Simulator. You can be a cook and you can make sandwiches. So
Okay.
it's
Okay.
a sandwich simulator.
Okay. I was about to say, it's like, man, they're really like stretching on this thing.
Sim sandwich.
So
Just sounds cool.
So to go back on System Shock, so like something that I've seen, like I've played a lot of horror games and I have been terrified by a lot of them. Would you say like what would you say like the trend in horror is right now? Because it seems like a lot of them are either you take away all their weapons or you give them too many weapons. So Oh no, I would say like because like is there like a fine line with it? Because with System Shock it's more of like an RPG, but like how exactly are you guys gonna balance that to where it doesn't feel like you're, you want it to feel like Resident Evil 1, not Resident Evil 6,
Yeah, so we did a lot of research in horror games, survival games, suspense games out there, and the formula does break down actually into some very simple categories. Most horror games deal with jump scare tactics, as do most horror movies. Others focus on very horrific scenes that are just visually disturbing to the viewer, and others experiment with scarcity and putting the player in a situation where they don't have enough resources to feel powerful. And we're basically going to pick and choose from several of those categories. We're not necessarily going to do jump scares. We might have a few of those just for the sake of checking that box. But most of the horror feeling in the game will come down to survival, scarcity, and horrific scenes and themes. Because this game takes place on a space station where an AI has essentially just had her way with all these humans and has twisted humanity in cybernetic monstrosities, and a lot of this leads to horrific scenes that the player will encounter. And the player themselves, they're a hacker, and they don't have formal military training. They're not a badass. But eventually, as they play the game, they're gonna get more and more badass things to use. But at every point, just when the player feels like they're strong and they're powerful, we're gonna throw something new at them to remind them, no, they're just an insignificant insect compared to Shodan. Until the end, if/when they finally beat her and complete the game, then the player will probably feel powerful from that. But the feeling that we really want to convey is that they survived Shodan. They didn't defeat Shodan. Because that's truly to us what makes a System Shock game is that it is about the player's traversal through the game and the adversity that they overcome in spite of insurmountable odds. One thing that I like to compare it to is I'm going to mess up his name. I hope I don't. John McClane from the Die Hard series, specifically Die Hard 1. Because you take a guy who's going up against these corporate terrorists, and he one man crawling through vents, yippee-ki-yang all over the place, but having badass moments. But every time he gets very badass, like there's something that happens that makes the viewer kind of worried, like, oh, is he going to get out of this one? What's happening? And it's that level of suspense that we really want to tap into to let the player feel like they are achieving things, but around the next corner could be something that's going to put them in their place.
Finding Dory Puzzle Quest.
Exactly, just like Finding Dory Puzzle Quest. That time when she's fighting the vampires, it's just like that.
Dude, that was actually a pretty intense scene. Like I was honestly, I have to really hand it to the developers on that one.
I know. If it wasn't for her AI companion, I didn't think that she'd get through it.
By the way,
Jason.
Can you guys hear this crazy ass wind that's going on?
No, you have a really good microphone.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure because it's
or a
like
really bad one.
It is like gusting a storm out here, and I just didn't want it to sound like I was in a wind tunnel or something. So I just wanted to make sure real quick. But anyway, back to System Shock. So with
it's really windy here too. Actually,
maybe
super windy.
Maybe you guys are just
California. It's just sunny and nothing changes. It's like I'm in a simulator.
Maybe
I went out and I brushed my dog this morning, and there was like a mountain of fur in the yard, and this big gust of wind just took it away, and it's just floating above the neighborhood right now.
So, God. So with Shodan, did you guys get the old person that did the voice for her?
Oh, she's not that old. She's still got it.
Oh, so that's a yes.
I'll let Steven answer that one.
Yes, we have Terry Brocious and Eric Brocious reprising their roles.
That is for the game. Awesome. Okay, because that's the thing. Like, with System Shock, I feel like, you know, like maybe look wise, the game doesn't hold up as it did, like, you know, back in the olden days of the 90s to the early 2000s. You know, the olden days of PC gaming. With that game, like the sound to it though, I feel like that sound still like holds up with it, and I think that is awesome that you guys got Shodan, the original voice, to come around. And like, was that something that she was just like already just like on board with it, or did you kind of have to like, please do it?
It didn't take much convincing. Kind of in the same way that we got Rob Waters to reprise his role on the team as well as the lead concept artist. So a lot of the original visions that he created for the game initially in 1994, you know, we're getting to see those being, you know, recreated with, you know, all the benefits of the experience he's had over the last 20 some odd years. So it's very similar to that. I think all the previous developers were just very enthusiastic about the project.
And so, because you do have a good amount of people from the original game.
Like... well, Rob is actively working on the game. You know, Terry's role will come in much later when we're ready to record VO. But then, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we've got a lot of the original developers weighing in, counseling with us, and just being there to share their perspective and you know, their experience working on the game.
So the game's not going to come out though for a while, right? Or I think I saw it said around 2018 is when the game's coming out.
Well, we've been saying that since the Kickstarter came out. I mean, basically the deliverables for the Kickstarter stuff, we're going to do our best to fulfill most of those deliverables by the end of 2017. But games take time. And I mean, and it's the thing with adding the PS4 to one of our launch platform. That's we need to release this game as bug free as possible. And so 2018 is more of a safety net to ensure that by then definitely all versions will be out. But we're not sure if we're going to try to do a simultaneous launch or stagger the release. So, I mean, it's possible it might get done sooner, but I'd rather have a nice buffer with a launch window and deliver sooner than have a short launch window and deliver after that and just disappoint everybody.
At least you have like a launch window and it's there. You know, like other games where they never hint at whether or not they're going to make a sequel, and you wait 12 years and you still wonder if it's ever going to happen. And you know, I don't want to point out any developers out there. If maybe they listen, Valve, please, where are you? Are you even a thing anymore? Where are you?
Ricochet 2? Is that what you're hoping for?
Oh, yeah. No, that was the one.
Yeah, me too. I'm just on the edge of my seat waiting for any news of a sequel to that title.
I did play a mod of Half-Life 2, though, that was that I guess like it kind of gave me a little something like, oh, okay, cool. I like that. And then I was like, oh yeah, I remember what it was like being in the world of Half-Life. It was magical. It was wonderful. Everything was great. Why did I do it? Like after I got done, like, why did I do that to myself? Like, it felt dirty almost. Like, ugh. But I'm super excited for System Shock. I was honestly, when you guys emailed me back, I was blown away. I was like, no way did I get these guys. This is amazing. So thank you so much for coming onto the show. If you guys out there want to play the System Shock demo, it is available on Steam. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. And if you like what you played and you want to be involved in the development process, just go over to their development studio, knock on the door, bring your computer, plop it down, start developing things. They're going to be impressed. And then you show them that you've been working on Finding Dory Puzzle Quest the entire time. So,
which we totally don't have the rights to make.
They don't have the rights, but we can finagle it a little bit.
Yeah. I have some friends that work at Pixar, and I mean Puzzle Quest. We can figure it out.
Do you actually have friends that work at Pixar?
One friend.
Well, then there you go. We'll slide some 20s his way. I only got a couple though, so it's going to be a couple 20s. But if you want to check out System Shock, go check it out. It's on Steam, and add it to your wish list, and it will notify you when the game is fully released. And I will have a embedded link as well to the demo on the Gacha.tv website. So if you want to if you're having trouble finding it, it's right there. Guys, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It's been awesome, and I am so stoked to play System Shock when it eventually comes out. I have a lot of faith in you guys.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It was fun talking to you.
And if you guys want to check out any more episodes of Gamer Weekly, it is on SoundCloud.com/GamerWeekly, and it's also on Podcast Addict and iTunes. If you're on Podcast Addict, just include iTunes, and it's like I'm there. They won't tell me how to actually put it on there, so I'm thinking they don't want me on there, but we found a way, so we're good. All right, thank you so much for listening, guys, and goodbye, and goodbye, and goodbye, and goodbye, and goodbye, and goodbye.